Yo budgeters, welcome to the channel. Thank you guys for clicking this video. You guys are awesome. Here are 3 budget Yu-Gi-Oh hand traps that specialize in dealing with the graveyard. Each does it in its own unique way. Ghost Belle Haunted Mansion does it from many different angles. Diddy Crow is a graveyard sniper, and Skull Meister straight up negates. So can we say one is better than the other since the effects are different? Let's break down each and see which is the best. If you guys do decide to purchase any cards as a result of the information in this video, please be sure to use my TCG player link down in the description below. Let's start with Diddy, as it's the only card of the 3 that does not negate a card effect. It is a quick effect that banishes a card from your opponent's graveyard. Though it's a very simple effect, it's a very powerful one. Being a quick effect means that the card can be used either preemptively or reactively. A good example of a preemptive use is versus a Virtual World Gate, Inglong, Kinglong, and Chuchi, or versus the Golden Land trap cards, Conquistador of the Golden Land or Graverobber of the Golden Land. All 4 of these cards can be banished for additional advantages. A hit to one of these cards before the activation guarantees you a disruption in play, or one less card to deal with on the following turn.
Yeah,
as a reactive hit, if your opponent activates something like Eldish the Golden Lord from the grave, or Monster Reborn, or a bested Drytron ritual card, Meteor's Drytron, you can hit these targets before the effect resolves and disrupt the play since the cards or the targets are no longer in the graveyard. Now, next we have the Skull Meister himself, which is a purely reactive card. Like Diddy Crow, it can be used during either player's turn. Its effect is to negate cards that activate in the graveyard, but unlike Diddy Crow, it does not remove the target from play. In my opinion, it's best to use against cards that remove themselves from the graveyard to activate their effects. The Golden Land trap cards mentioned earlier are very good examples, since the effects activate in the graveyard but banish themselves as pause. Skull Meister can stop them since they activated in the graveyard, and they cannot activate again since they are already banished. Cards that remain in the graveyard are somewhat problematic. You can stop it from resolving, but it will remain in the graveyard for your opponent to attempt using it again next turn. A major downside to Skull Meister is that it cannot negate cards that target or interact with a card in the graveyard. Yeah, that sucks. Guys, if you are receiving any value from this video so far, kick that like button. Yes. Lastly guys, we have Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion. Like Skull Meister, it's a purely reactive card. Its effect is somewhat different from the 2 other cards, as it reacts to cards that activate in the graveyard, not necessarily cards that are actually in the graveyard. Okay, what I'm saying? The first effect that can be negated is the one that adds a card or cards from the graveyard to the hand, deck, or extra deck. One example is Attribution, returning cards from the graveyard to the deck to draw cards. Not only would Ghost Belle stop the drawing of cards, but it would also prevent your opponent from loading back resources to the deck. Freaking zoo, yeah, for them. The second effect negates a card that special summons a monster from the graveyard. Yeah, there we go. With this effect, Ghost Belle edges both Diddy Crow and Skull Meister, as it is somewhat a combination of both. Not only can it stop a card that special summons from the graveyard, such as Monster Reborn, Mizuki, or that third effect of Magician's Soul, they can also stop cards that summon themselves, like Salaman's Great Speedy, or even Eldish the Golden Lord. Stay. As for the third effect, it can stop a card that can banish cards from the graveyard. While it cannot stop cards that vanish as part of their course, like Miscellaneous or the earlier mentioned Virtual World and Golden Land cards, it can stop some interesting cards like Call by the Brave and Invocation. Well, as long as Magical Meltdown isn't on the field. Ghost Belle's effect is unfortunately limited to once per turn. It could be because the card can be activated in response to 3 different kinds of card effects. Yugioh and Skull Meister, however, do not have such limitations, making multiple copies in hand live during the same turn as opposed to having 2 Ghost Bells in hand, which would kind of render one of them useless, unless you use it for some kind of summon afterwards. It is a tuner. With the top decks this format all interacting with the grave in some shape or form, one or multiple of these grave robbers should be in your deck or side deck at least. That being said, my winner based on the information presented, current format and personal preference is none other than the sniper himself, Yugioh. Which one of these grave robbers will you risk your YCS win with? Let me know in the comment section below. And guys, please stay tuned for more budget card discussions and the usual budget deck profiles. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoy. Stay safe.